He's in a big media market. He is a special player. He's fearless in terms of making off-platform throws. He practices them. He wants to be like Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers does a pretty good imitation, right? And I think that given the fact that he's going to start right away, they just revamped the offensive line. Like, they got him, his left side is taken care of. He's going to be the guy we're buzzing about end of the offseason.
I got a lot of questions about Zach Wilson. One of the guys that I don't have a lot of questions about is Justin Fields. And even though he dropped a little bit in the pre-draft process, I feel like Justin Fields will show people why he should have got more consideration of being that second quarterback that came off of the board. Like, I just believe in the talent that he has. And although there are some things that he needs to tweak mechanically, I believe that Matt Nagy will put him in situations that bring out his talent. A lot of coaching is being able to figure out what players do well and put them in situations to do that and avoid keeping them in situations where they don't do things so well. So I think Matt Nagy will do that with Justin Fields. He'll be the guy that everybody's buzzing about.
What are your questions about Zach Wilson?
Well, the biggest question has to be with the New York Jets and seeing if they can develop a franchise quarterback. But beyond that, the quality of competition that we saw with him at BYU, I just don't know if it's going to translate to having success. I didn't watch a ton of Zach Wilson tape, but I did see him against Coastal Carolina, and he didn't look that great.
By the way, I didn't see a bunch of Zach Wilson, and then, wait, he's ahead of Justin Fields, and so I went and YouTubed a bunch of Zach Wilson. Oh, my God. But as Mina Kimes pointed out, that offensive line was a beast, right? He had a lot of time to do it. I'm just saying the eyeball test says this kid can play.
I want to go back to MVP really quick because obviously Vegas has Trevor Lawrence winning it. But do you think that's not the wisest choice just based on the fact it depends also on how well your team does to win MVP?
Yeah, it seems a little strange.
Like, I'm surprised Vegas would pick him. You're kind of the odds expert with the Vegas stuff, right?
Well, I mean, look, I look at all these guys. I think that the guys who people think, like the number one guy obviously is Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of the team. The guy who got drafted second was Zach Wilson. Also, their team's not going to be ready yet, right?
Yeah.
So you start looking around who could play for a good team and put up numbers. I don't think that's Mac Jones.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to play so fast as a lot of people think he's going to play. And so it comes down to me to Trey Lance and Justin Fields. And I agree with you. The injury thing is the big thing. Trey Lance could wind up in that situation if Garoppolo gets hurt, and he often does, but not all the time. And he did play in a Super Bowl. Justin Fields, it's his job. It's his job, and the team ain't bad.
And the team has a chance to win, but why would Vegas have Trevor Lawrence knowing the team isn't good? I mean, we're talking about this with Steph Curry with MVP, right? He's having a phenomenal year, but the team's not good enough. So I don't understand that.
Because Vegas, real quick, when they set odds, they're just trying to get action on both sides of the line. So really what Vegas is doing is trying to take the temperature of the public. Trevor Lawrence has the most press, the most obvious talent. He's the most ready. He was the number one overall pick. So they take him because they probably get action on both sides.
Well, here's the one thing I will say about that as well. Trevor Lawrence is one of the most heralded prospects we've seen since Andrew Luck. And you saw what Andrew Luck did in year one with the Colts. Now, I get it. It's a different situation with that team versus where the Jags are. But if Trevor Lawrence is a part of being a turnaround agent for that Jags team, and, of course, that division being one of the worst divisions in all of football, I think that's what Vegas is betting on to see if they can get people involved with that line.
And, by the way, when I say both sides, that doesn't apply. It's not like an over-under. They're just saying, like, is he going to win? He's the most famous guy. He went number one. They will get the most action on him.
Do you really believe he could be the next Andrew Luck?
I think he's got the talent to do it. I mean, he's right up there with some of the best that we've seen come into the National Football League. There's nothing that Trevor Lawrence can't do at the quarterback position from a physical standpoint. The biggest question that I have with Trevor Lawrence is his situation with his head coach. It's the biggest question I got with him.
If he can
whether or not he's got a head coach that can develop him properly.
Interesting.
You know, when he faced Joe Burrow, right? Like, it's like Trevor Lawrence. It's the reason I like them. Trevor Lawrence, he's the guy. When he was younger than Deshaun Watson, he did better against the same team that Deshaun Watson beat by the skin of his teeth. Trevor Lawrence sliced and diced him up. Here we go. Well, who was the best player on the field? Joe Burrow, by so much. They capped the greatest season of all time, maybe, right? Joe Burrow, maybe with the greatest game of all time. It's on a short list. And so when I think sometimes it's not that Trevor Lawrence doesn't have it all. He has it all. I get it. But sometimes when a guy starts out real fast, we kind of stick with that. There are other guys who performed in college in recent years when it mattered most, even better than Trevor Lawrence. I'm just saying.
Max, he lost 2 games.
No doubt. No doubt. And one of them was to who?
They lost 2 games.
And one of them was to who?
It was to Joe Burrow, who had a host of first-round draft picks on that offense. I'm just saying.
By the way, just as Trevor Lawrence did once upon a time.
But when we're talking Lawrence, Fields, Lance, Wilson, Jones, how good do you think this quarterback class will be when it's all said and done?
I think it's got a chance to be as good as what we saw in the quarterback class of 2004 with Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Phillip Rivers. I mean, we're talking about guys that are capable of winning multiple championships.
Potential Hall of Famers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say it's the 83 class. I mean, it could be in that vein as well. Like, these guys have a lot of talent. And Molly, the thing that I love about the lower levels of the sport is that they're developing quarterbacks that are ready to play earlier in their careers. So, I mean, the fact that we're going to see these guys sooner rather than later at the NFL
like that,
level.
though?
I do.
Because it used to be the third year was the sweet spot, and now they're just thrown into the fire.
No, I mean, the rookie contract is the sweet spot for NFL teams in terms of constructing a roster that's capable of winning a championship.
I just point one thing out. The one team who's had the most success doing it, they have the best guy, are the Chiefs. Mahomes started 1 game as a rookie. He sat behind Alex Smith as a rookie,
But
and
that
then in
was
the
a
second
playoff
year
team.
took
That
off.
was a playoff team, and Alex Smith was playing
so were the Niners.
really well.
So were the Niners, and I don't think that Alex Smith was any better than this Jimmy Garoppolo. In fact, if I had to pick between the two, I'll take the Jimmy Garoppolo who went to the Super Bowl over that Alex Smith.
Yeah, but you knew that Alex Smith was going to be under center each and every week. With Jimmy Garoppolo, he's only had 1 season where he stayed healthy.
The other thing is, you can go back to 2004. Roethlisberger, Hall of Fame. Eli, borderline Hall of Fame. Rivers also, like, we'll see.
Hall of Fame. Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. None of them in the inner circle Hall of Fame type thing. Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson off the field. He's facing serious stuff. Patrick Mahomes, that draft, you also have another guy who could still wind up in the Hall of Fame. Let's see. That's pretty good. Pretty good draft for quarterbacks.
Trubisky was there, too.
Yeah, well, not as good, but he started.
He was the first one.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.